Hello and welcome back to the port. I'm the Gap Major and this is Admiralty Reports. Admiralty Reports is your gameplay submissions with my commentary, and today we are looking at a submission from Eternal Abyss, who is playing in the VII German aircraft carrier August von Parseval. Now this submission is a little bit old, I guess you could say. It's between the updates where the introduction of evasive manoeuvres and then the changes to the number of aircraft and aircraft HP at Tier 7, so it's in between those. Nowadays, there's more aircraft in the flight, but the overall HP per aircraft has been reduced, so overall the flight's HP is the same as previous. So this is from back in the day when it was a bit easier to manage your aircraft resources, whereas nowadays you'll lose more aircraft in this regard. So he's seen the enemy aircraft coming in, so he's done a quick loop and dropped his fighter consumable resource there to hopefully engage them, and it looks like they might be on their way. Now this is a very battleship heavy game. It's the kind of game where if you're a destroyer or an aircraft carrier, you're pretty much licking your lips, especially in the August von Parseval with the AP bombs. So here he's using the basic maneuvers to guarantee to get his free aircraft through to the target, the Richelieu. The reason being is there's two battleships here with a combined AA bubble, so he's just making sure. Nowadays, rather than going in with just 3 aircraft, you might say go in with 6 out of your 9 aircraft, so you have like 3 sacrificable aircraft AA and 3 aircraft to get through to the target. Whereas back in these days, you could get away with doing a safety drop and using only half your flights to actually focus on the enemy target. And it's the Alabama that's next to the Richelieu, so that is quite a strong AA bubble, I guess you could say. So on the enemy team, we have an Akatsuki, an Atlanta, a Wichita, a Colorado, Richelieu, Alabama, Iowa, and a Shikoku. Coming under some AA flak there from the valley, so that's an indication where the enemy Akatsuki is. So going to be keeping an eye out on that. Making another run on the Richelieu because she's pushing it forward, so she's leaving the AA bubble of the Alabama. Shooting down 5 aircraft with your fighter consumable as well, which is quite useful, helping your team on this flank. Noting that the enemy carrier is also operating on this flank, so this is very much going to be a carrier versus carrier duel over the Charlie objective. Looking at the rest of the team, friendly team-wise, he's got Benson, Helena, Cleveland, Snop, Colorado, Georgia, Massachusetts, and Iowa, and obviously Eternal in the August von Parseval. Noting that the Benson has already passed on to the other realm very early in the game, so his team has actually already lost a destroyer. Now he's launched torpedo aircraft because they're more capable at dealing with destroyers, especially considering his only other option is AP bombs, which probably won't really do too much to a destroyer. He's come up this way to try and do some scouting, see where the Akatsuki's gone. He's managed to work out she's gone to the cap, and then using her AA, he's able to work out her exact position, keeping her spotted and light her up in front of the team. Not dropping the torpedoes until the arming time of the torpedoes is at the bow of the destroyer, with the intention that by the time the destroyer's moved forward, the torpedoes would catch up and be targeting the back of it. Getting 2 torpedo hits, one of which caused flooding, which has been damage common by the Akatsuki. Not doing a safety drop because we're not really too concerned about the AA capability of the Akatsuki, and she's quite far ahead of her friendly team, so she's actually quite isolated. Spotting the enemy torpedoes, that's one of the helpful things that an aircraft carrier can do, is especially when targeting an enemy destroyer. Now at the moment with the Akatsuki all smoked up, she's going to be quite difficult to try and find. You might be able to blind fire the torpedoes into the smoke and maybe hope for a hit, but it's a bit chance in your arm. However, what he's done there is he's used the Akatsuki as his safety drop. Noting the enemy carrier here, so the enemy carrier is really pushed up quite far forward, something that seems incredibly strange, and for a Shikoku to do that, that's quite dangerous. The reason being is the Shikoku actually has the weakest AA complement for a Tier 7 carrier, and when coming up against something like an August von Parseval, she can be picked out and almost carrier sniped, and I think we're going to be seeing part of that. Get some torpedo hits on the Richelieu, which is again helping his team on this flank, but looking at the map, the enemy do have control of the Alpha objective, and it looks like that flank over on the left is going to be pushing through quite hard. So, enemy torpedo aircraft there, just doing a safety drop of the AP bombs. The reason being is, even though the carrier Shikoku doesn't have great AA. It still does have some AA, and it does have fighters which will automatically be launched should the carrier be spotted. So in this case, she's spotted here, and so he's using an engine cooldown booster just to push his aircraft through onto the target, lining up nicely onto the centre of the deck, and rewarding ourselves with 2 more citadels. Launched another volley of AP aircraft. It's worth noting that he managed to do about, I want to say, 20,000 damage to the Shikoku there. So potentially 2 or 3 more attacks, probably 3 more attacks, would be sufficient to actually seal the fate of the Shikoku there. So that's worth noting. The Shikoku has definitely pushed up far too much forward. She should be a bit further back, and I think the downside of her being so close at the moment is, firstly, Eternal does not have to fly through any other AA bubbles. The Akatsuki is obviously gone now as well, so he hasn't really got to worry about that. Furthermore, because the Shikoku is so close, it's not going to take too long for Eternal to actually get his aircraft to the Shikoku. So he's already safety dropped one flight, and he's closing in with his other flight and lining up on the deck, and there we go. Another citadel, and she's down to about 10,000 HP. Looking at the teams, it's not looking too good. Eternal's team are only down to 105 points, and make that 45 points, I should say, and they haven't got a single cap. There's only 3 of their ships left versus the enemy 7 ships, and the enemy team actually has a cap, so this is not looking very favourable. However, there's a reasonable potential that he might be able to seal the fate of the Shikoku before she can slither away. But looking at the map, he needs to really start reconsidering his position, because there's absolutely no friendly vessels to the west side of him. There's only 2 friendly vessels left, one being to the north, and the other one being all the way over here underneath his aircraft. Shikoku's trying to find a way around the corner, but it looks like he's going to be able to seal the deal. He's going in with 6 aircraft. He's already lost 1 of those. There goes the bombs, and there is the kill. Very nice. So sniping out the enemy carrier, which also should maybe relieve some of the pressure on the remaining 2 vessels on his team, one of which is the Colorado that you just saw, which is only down to about 5,000 HP. As always, down in the description will be the commander build and the ship modules that he's used. In this case, he's using obviously Geisler, level 14 legendary 2 traits, swatting that flies, one-way ticket, out of sight, heavy consequences, and corkscrew. Inspirations, space fishy at level 13, and Tanaka level 16 legendary 3. Line up some torpedoes on the bow of the Richelieu, and using a evasive maneuver consumable to make sure that he reduces the incoming damage that he's taking, especially from the Alabama, which does have quite an effective AA capability. Going in for another strike, this time on the Alabama, losing an aircraft on the way in, so only 1 aircraft making it through, dropping 1 torpedo. The enemy cruisers are getting pretty precariously close to the northwest of him. It looks like a Wichita managed to get a torpedo hit on the Alabama, which is actually quite amusing. Adjusting the autopilot to get himself way off to the east side of the map, and making the close in onto the Wichita. However, the Wichita is going to be a very nimble cruiser with the correct commander build. So dropping torpedoes there, but you can see the Wichita turning into them. And the Wichita actually managed to thread the needle and gets through them without a hitch. Going in for another strike on the Wichita. Should do it, maybe. Launching 2 torpedoes as we lose an aircraft on the way in. Worth noting that his carrier is now spotted by the Wichita, so the Wichita is definitely going to be causing him some problems. His team's down to 70 points at the moment, and they're outnumbered 5-2. There's the Wichita again. Looks like she's going to try and thread the needle again too. And she turns in towards the direction of the torpedoes. She takes 1, no, she takes 2. It looks like the 2 torpedoes, which were on the right side of that spread, managed to find their mark as they were so close together. However, Eternal is coming under fire, and so far has lost about 20,000 of his HP. Launching another flight of torpedo aircraft. Only 4 left in the flight now. And it's worth noting there's another enemy cruiser back there as well, which I believe to be the Atlanta, so he is flying into some quite hefty AA. Getting another torpedo hit on the Wichita, but it's not enough to finish her. Having to launch AP bombers now, as we're all out of torpedo aircraft, as the attrition of the AA from the enemy cruisers and the Iowa as well, so it's a very strong AA bubble over there, has whittled away what available aircraft he's had. Now with AP bombers, it's going to be more advantageous for him to target the Iowa, adjusting his autopilot to get themselves behind an island. When you're using the autopilot, always be a little bit cautious when you're targeting a grid square which has landmass within it. Sometimes the way the autopilot works, it likes to try and ram you into an island or something along those lines should there be a landmass within the grid square, so just always be a bit cautious when doing that. Using those AP bombers against the Iowa there, getting another sister. Colorado's full HP. The friendly remaining ship is down to about 5,000 HP, so this is not going to be a... well, I don't think it's going to be a solo warrior, because there's only 3 enemy ships left, but it's not looking favourable. Friendly Massachusetts says target the Iowa, while the Massachusetts targets the Atlanta, so a reasonable amount of teamwork there actually. The Massachusetts understanding that it's better for Eternal to go after the Iowa while he goes after the Atlanta, getting 2 Citadels, high caliber, and removing the Iowa from the game. Now, the Atlanta loading up torpedo aircraft, that's going to be the better aircraft for dealing with the Atlanta. The AP bombs might be effective against the Atlanta, but the Atlanta's quite, firstly, thinly armoured, and B, quite manoeuvrable. If you're going to use AP aircraft on her, you're going to almost want her to be sitting still behind an island. However, torpedo aircraft are going to be more than effective, and she is broadside on. And also, she's got to deal with the Massachusetts, so at the moment you're taking advantage of her having to almost dodge this kind of crossfire. That's always one of the things that carriers can do. They can just build a crossfire wherever they go. Getting 2 torpedo hits, another kill, and the Confederate medal. So that just leaves the full half Colorado. Not sure the Massachusetts is going to be around for much longer though. She looks like she's not doing too great HP wise. Adjusting the autopilot, and as you can see, just because he targeted the grid square with the landmass in it, it's gone and rammed him into an island, as it plans to, at least, I guess you can say. But he's basically trying to move himself a bit closer to the fight. He can obviously outrun the Colorado, because the Colorado can only do about 21 knots. Friendly Massachusetts is gone, unfortunately, so it's now 1v1 with only 2 minutes on the clock. I don't think the enemy team are going to win on points. For some reason, the enemy team did not cap the Bravo objective, which seems like a really strange one. Like, they absolutely dominated the Alpha objective, and so I would have partially expected maybe one of the cruisers to have gone for the Bravo objective, just to almost like make sure they get enough points. But it seems like they got a bit greedy. They kind of saw they have the number advantage and thought, oh, we can just push from the kills. Getting a couple of Citadels on the Colorado, which is all very nice. The Colorado has got a reasonable anti-aircraft capability, and Eternal's just adjusting his autopilot there, just to make sure that he doesn't end up in a situation where he hands himself over. I guess at the moment, it's still all to play for, I guess you can say. If Eternal can keep up this onslaught against the Colorado with 1 minute 30 left, he might be able to seal the deal. I guess that's one of the benefits of the German carriers with their AP bombs. They can cause Citadel damage. Citadel damage, only a small proportion of it can be recovered. So unlike, say, the Lexington and the Shikoku, which sometimes rely on damage over time from their bombs, usually from fires, the German carriers are reliant on getting those Citadel hits, and 3 Citadel hits there, taking the Colorado down to almost a sliver of HP. However, her AA capability is really tearing up his aircraft. He's only got 1 aircraft left, and RNG does not say yes in this case. So we're on to launching the torpedo aircraft with 43 seconds left on the clock and counting. So we're hoping for almost that one wonderful torpedo. Now, whether we can actually find our mark, I don't think we'll have time to do 2 strikes with these aircraft. I mean, we're down to 28 seconds and counting. So we're going to have to just try and make our mark with this. And at the moment, with the Colorado being broadside on, it's actually quite favourable. Colorado appears to be trying to turn in, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Loose the torpedoes. And the Wunderbar with 2 torpedo hits sealing the deal. So we're looking at 212,000 damage from 16 torpedo hits and 26 bomb hits, causing 12 citadels and 3 flooding, along with a single incapacitation, sealing 4 kills, getting 6 defender ribbons, shooting down only 6 aircraft and getting 6 spotting ribbons. So overall, quite an interesting game, I guess you could say, getting Confederate and high caliber. So definitely putting in some legwork on that one and turning the game around at the very last second, as the numbers were at one point in the enemy team's favour. Obviously coming in top of his team with 3,259 ship XP, that is obviously with 1.5 multiplier for being on the winning team. And it's definitely Eternal and the Massachusetts, which comes in second place on his team, which really did the heavy lifting for his team, both of them dealing 4 kills and basically 8 kills between the two. It's amusing in this game to note that the 2 destroyers, the 1 per team, coming at the bottom of their respective teams with 340 and 394 ship XP. So the destroyers not really contributing much to this game, even though they are the class which can have the largest impact on a game. In these kind of games where there's lots of battleships, it does mean there's not a lot of spotting left when you have low numbers of destroyers, and so quite a lot of the other spotting potential and damage potential almost goes to the carriers, I guess you could say. Going on to the economy screen, and we're walking away with a profit of 410,000 credits with a premium account, and that is after a ship service cost of 146,000 credits. So all in all, making himself a very pretty penny. Well, that was a very great submission from Eternal Abyss, and much appreciated. Obviously, it's a slightly older submission. It's between the slight buff with the evasive maneuvers consumable, but before the nerf, which saw a reduction of aircraft HP, but also the increase in numbers. However, the August von Parseval is still a very capable aircraft carrier and probably one of the strongest at tier 7s at the moment. If you did enjoy this, feel free to give it a thumbs up, and if you enjoy this content, feel free to subscribe. Down in the description is the modules and the commander build used by the player who submitted it in, along with the email address the channel if you want to send in your own game captures. They can be full-on games or nice little snippets and clips if you feel like it, and also a link to Patreon if you want to support the channel on Patreon, as it is non-monetized channel. Until next time, I'm the Gaffer Major, and back to the port.
Hey, hey, clear the way, here comes the galloping Major. Bumpity, 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 bump. Get out of the way there, you fellows, unless you want me to run you down. I guess this is the life. Now, hey, hey, clear the way, here comes the galloping Major.